In this video, we will show you how to replace your vehicle's cooling fan assembly on this Nissan Maxima with a 3.5-liter engine. This will be located across the front of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we're going to mention is we will have to make our way underneath the front of the vehicle, so make sure you're in a safe area to do so. Aside from that, we're going to make our way over to our radiator cap right along this area here. First of all, confirm that it's cool to the touch. You never want to open your cooling system when it's hot. Maybe you just came back from a nice ride. This is cool, so we're going to go ahead and press this down, turn it counterclockwise to dislodge it. A little bit of coolant comes up and out of there, that's okay. A quick inspection of your cap and we'll set that aside. The next thing we'll do is safely make our way underneath the front of the vehicle so we can prepare to drain the cooling system. A quick note about doing this job, you do not need to fully drain the cooling system, but typically when I do this, I like to replace all of it. Now we're making our way underneath the passenger side front and we can see the lower aspect of the radiator up inside this area. We have our lower radiator hose making its way all the way over towards the passenger side, and right in here you can see the small Phillips head drain plug for that radiator. We have our collection receptacle underneath this area. We're going to start draining the cooling system. Now while the coolant's draining, I'm back up in the engine compartment. Let's start removing our air inlet tube. For this, you're going to find that it has three 10mm headed mounting bolts holding it in place, and then it'll slide out of the lower air filter housing. Just a quick inspection of that and we'll set it aside. Locate your battery and you can see the hold down making its way across the top. Let's start dislodging the battery hold down. To disconnect the battery hold down, you're going to find that it has two anchor points, one on the outboard side and one on the inboard side. The process will be the same. For each of these, there's a 10mm mounting nut up along the top here. We're going to start loosening these so we can dislodge the hook from down along the bottom mounting point. We got some movement there. Should be able to shake that around. Now I can see my hook coming up from this side. We'll repeat the process on this side. If it's not loose enough, we'll just loosen that nut a little bit. Okay. Now we can start removing this. If you have a handle, that can get in the way sometimes. If that's the case, just go ahead and fully remove one of the mounting nuts from its corresponding hook. Lift that off of there. Set that aside. And get the next one off of here as well. With the battery hold down out of the way, now we can focus on disconnecting the negative battery terminal. We'll use a 10mm for the mounting nut. Loosen this just enough that we can remove the terminal end from the battery. We'll just give this a quick inspection. As you can tell, there is corrosion on this. It will need to be taken care of. We'll set this aside temporarily, move along to the positive terminal. For the positive terminal, you'll find that it typically has a protective cover on it. Go ahead and remove that and use your 10mm once again to loosen the mounting nut. We've got corrosion on this as well. That's okay. We'll take care of that during the installation process. At this point, you can take hold of the battery and lift it up and out of position. Now we can start removing the TCM from this area, or the computer for the vehicle. Now for this, you're going to find that it has 4 connectors. We need to disconnect each of these. They're all pretty much the same. Just go ahead and press in on the locking tab. You can see where my pocket screwdriver is, and you should be able to flip up on this lever. As we're flipping this up, it's going to start pulling the electrical connector away, and we should be able to dislodge it. Every time we disconnect an electrical connector, a quick peek for corrosion, of course, and we'll continue down the line repeating the process. Now as you disconnect these, you're going to find that they do have different colors making their way down as far as the connectors are concerned. Just go ahead and pay close attention to that. You can write it down if necessary, but typically these will only fit in one space. There's 3, on to the 4th. Let's set that wiring aside. Now let's look along the inboard side here, closest to the engine. We can see that we have our wiring harness making its way across this area. We need to start dislodging it, so we're going to start with our 10mm headed bolt down in this area. Now we're going to follow this cable around towards this side. Now as we follow this wiring harness, we can tell that it's attached to the bracket right in this area. Just go ahead and take hold of the wiring harness and we're going to give it a loving tug straight upward here. Should want to separate. Now we can start removing our plastic battery tray. To remove this, just go ahead and take hold of it. You do want to use gloved hands, of course. You can see all that corrosion on there. We'll set that aside. Now we can start removing the bracket holding this in place. You're going to find that there's 4 13mm headed mounting bolts to remove here. And one over here. Next one. Now as we start lifting this up and out of position, we want to pay attention along the back side here. The air filter housing actually has a small tab that protrudes down and it will go into a rubber grommet, which is attached to this bracket. So with that said, we're just going to take hold of this. We should be able to pivot it and roll it out of position. There we are. Now typically this rubber grommet should be in better condition. This one's actually damaged, but looks like it's still mostly usable. Let's go ahead and give this a quick inspection and set it aside. Now let's move from there across the center of the front of the engine compartment. We're going to start dislodging our upper radiator hose. In the very center of the engine compartment, you can see that there's a small bracket holding this in place. We'll remove our 10mm headed mounting bolt. There should be a second half to this. Typically it will still be attached to the hose. Once you dislodge it, just go ahead and roll it up and out of position. Ours is broken. Now we're moving up towards where our radiator cap was located. You can see where the upper radiator hose connects onto. Let's go ahead and squeeze on that clamp. We'll slide it out of position. Just using some pliers for this. You can also use hose clamp pliers if necessary. Now with that hose out of the way, we can make our way down in this area in between our cooling fan and our engine. We're paying attention for our wiring harnesses. All the way over towards the passenger side, where our coolant cap was, in this area you can see one of the wiring harnesses. It's held in place to the fan assembly. We're just going to use a small trim tool. You can use pretty much anything as a prying device, even a flathead screwdriver if necessary. Make my way right in between and gently separate these two. There we are. Just a quick inspection of that plastic clip. That looks good. Now that we've separated the wiring harness from over there, we're making our way towards the center. We can see 2 electrical connectors for our fan assembly. Let's start disconnecting these. I'm going to start with the upper one. Each one of these will have a small locking tab. I'm going to press that in. For me personally, I'm just using a small pocket screwdriver. You can also use a small pick or even your finger in some cases, but typically a small screwdriver works best. Just a quick inspection for corrosion as we continue on. This one should be latched into the fan assembly down here. It's separated. Get this one off of here. There's that one. Both of those look good. We'll set those aside. Now that we've disconnected all the electrical connectors and separated everything, we can start dismounting the fan. Along each upper corner, you're going to find a 10mm headed mounting bolt. Let's go ahead and remove that. Now we're making our way all the way over towards the other side of the fan assembly. We have another 10mm headed mounting bolt down in this area. Now we should be able to take hold of the fan assembly. We're going to give it a wiggle, start sliding it away towards the engine here, and then we should be able to start lifting this up and out of position, removing it from the vehicle. Just give it a little wiggle here. There it is, friend. Now, prior to installation of our brand new fan assembly, let's have a quick look down at the mounting areas here. You should find that you have 3 rectangular ports for the bottom of that fan assembly to slide into. Just double check, make sure they're not broken or damaged. We're also having a look deep inside this area here. We're looking for any miscellaneous debris that might get caught up in that fan. Go ahead and remove that. If there's anything in there, just go ahead and pull it right on out. As much out as possible, at least. Now, other than that, we also have our 2 upper mounting points, one on each corner for those mounting bolts. We got our upper mounting point right up along here. Check that one, same on the other side. That's good as well. As we bring this in, we're being extremely careful not to cause any damage to the fan or even the radiator located in and in front of this. There we are. Now, once you feel as though you have it rested in there properly, you just need to confirm that each one of the 3 lower mounting points is properly seated, and then we'll continue on by swinging the upper portion up against this area for our 2 mounting bolts. That one's good. That's good. And that feels good as well. Start getting these bolts in here. Now we're just going to start each of these in before we tighten either. We started in that side, we're over here. Let's get the other one started in as well. Okay, they're both started in. Let's snug them up. That's tight. Let's do the same to the other side. Let's make our way over here. Let's start securing our electrical connectors. For each of these, we just want to try to line them up. Lock them in with their locking tabs. Just give that a little tug. Now that I have that connected, I always like to make sure there isn't too much slack on the wiring harness so it can't get caught on anything. I'm just going to use a wire tie right around the wiring harness and the fan assembly. Just try to get this to hold on there. Make sure nothing's inside the fan. Now it's time for our next connector. When we do have this connected, I'm going to use another wire tie around this area and around this portion of the wiring harness. Essentially just holding it in place so it can't get caught. Listen for a click from that, a light tug. Now let's make our way over towards the passenger side. We're going to secure that wiring harness along the side of the fan assembly. You can see the small area where it needs to press into, right in this area. Try to get this aligned, press it in. Okay, it looks like it's properly aligned. Press that in as far as possible. Make sure it's secure. Now it's time for our upper coolant hose making its way across this area. Let's go ahead and get this in position. We'll just slide it on there as far as possible and reinstall our clamp into the original position. Now I can see I'm a little off kilter here. It's a good idea to take your time. We do not want any coolant leaks. I'm in my same spot and I can see hose on both sides of the clamp. That's extremely important. Now let's make our way back towards the center. Now as I mentioned during the removal process, this bracket should still be attached to your upper hose, so you just want to go ahead and pivot it over. I'm just going to get this on here. Starting our 10mm headed mounting bolt, I'm going to snug this up. Now on my application in particular, since our bracket is broken, I like to make sure it's secure. I'm just going to use a wire tie in this area. If yours is secure, you can move along. Now we can prepare to install our computer or TCM. We'll start bringing this in position. We're going to be focusing down along the bottom of the air filter housing. We have this small tab that will fit inside of that rubber grommet on the bracket. Okay. Here's our rubber grommet. Try to come in at an angle here. Slide it in. Line it up. Get this aligned, we can install our 4 mounting bolts. We're only going to start each of them in before we tighten any of them. They're all started in, let's snug them up. Now we can secure our wiring harness. Get this in place right along here, press it down. A light tug confirming that's secure. Make our way on the other side of the computer over here. Get that in position. Start in your 10mm headed mounting bolt and snug it up. This one line back here. Now let's start reconnecting our electrical connectors here. We'll start out in this area. You can't mix this one up. Let's get this in position here. As you start sliding it in, you'll find it only goes in so far, but it will continue going in as you pull down on that locking tab. See, it's pressing in there. Listen for a click. We're going to double check to make sure that this is completely locked in by lifting up on that tab. It should be locked in. You do not want this falling off while you're driving down the road. Same goes for each and every one of these. Now we're moving along to our next 3 connectors. This will be the orientation of them. We have the black down along the bottom. Moving up, we have the brownish looking color, and then gray up along the top. We'll start at the bottom, of course, and make our way up. Pressing it in, pulling down on that tab. There we are, we can see it drawing in. Heard an audible click, a little tug, move along. Last one. Double check each one of those connectors. This is extremely important. It's time for the air inlet tube. We'll start by sliding that into the lower air filter housing. At that point, it should be able to pivot down into its proper resting point. We'll install all 3 of our 10mm headed mounting bolts. Go ahead and start those in and we'll snug them up. Now it's time for the plastic battery tray. A quick look along the bottom. There's 3 locating tabs, and if you're looking at the metal tray located just below where it should be mounted, there's 3 circular ports. Let's line this up and get it in position. It's time to install that battery. Slide that down into position here. Press that down. Install your positive terminal, press that as far down onto the battery as possible, tighten your 10mm headed mounting nut. Double check, make sure it's secured, cover and protect that positive terminal. Let's make our way to the negative terminal next. Slide that right on there. Once again, we're pressing it onto the battery as far as possible and tighten the mounting nut. Now it's time to install our battery hold down. We'll take one of our rods. We're starting with the inboard one. I'm going to take this all the way down to the lower mounting point. It's fairly difficult to see with the battery in place. Now I like to put the mount underneath the handle of the battery if your battery does have a small handle. While holding everything in place here, let's continue on with our mounting nut. We're only going to loosely snug this. That'll prevent that mounting point from coming loose down along that inboard side, and we can continue on to the outboard side next. Now we can continue on to the outboard hook. We're going to have this hook going down into its final position and hook in just like this, down along the bottom there. Try to press that down. Now I'm going to bring that up and over there. We'll press this up as far as possible. Now while holding it in this position, completely locked in on the bottom, let's continue on with starting on that mounting nut. With both pieces of hardware started in, let's go ahead and snug them up. There's that one. We have one side snug, now let's repeat the process for the other side. Now back underneath the passenger side, we have the drain plug for our radiator. I always like to confirm that it's tight. I'm just going to use my Phillips head on this. Oh yeah, I got a couple good turns here. Right when it bottoms out, we're just going to take it a tiny bit further, but keep in mind this is only plastic and we do not want to cause any damage. Now it's going to be time to fill the cooling system. To do this, you can either use a funnel with adapters, install it right along the top here, and add coolant as necessary. Otherwise, if you have a specialty tool, you can use that as well, whatever's best for you. Now, since I do have a specialty tool, that's what I'm going to be using. For this one in particular, it functions by creating vacuum inside of the cooling system. So I'm going to be hooking up an air hose to this. We'll be creating vacuum, and what we're paying attention to is this needle right here. What you should find is as I'm applying vacuum, the needle should be making its way all the way into the negative pressure range here, through the red, through the yellow, and into the green. Typically up past that 25 mark there is where you want to be. Once it seems as though the needle on this stays still and doesn't continue dropping any more negative pressure, we're going to go ahead and close this off and make sure we have no leaks. Now at this point, we're just making sure that the needle does not start dropping. It's common for it to go down a little bit, but it should not make its way past the green into the yellow or even worse, into the red. If it does either of those things, you have a leak somewhere and it needs to be diagnosed. Let's just give this another minute here, confirming we have no leaks before we continue filling. Okay, we've waited for a while now and we're sure we have no leaks. The needle hasn't dropped. So let's continue on adding coolant. For adding coolant to this, we'll make sure we're adding either the manufacturer's specified coolant, or you can use universal, whatever's more convenient for you. Now on this apparatus, it's going to be using vacuum, drawing fluid down from in this area. We want to make sure it does not run dry and potentially draw any air into the cooling system. We might have to switch out the jug. Bring this down in here. And here we go. As you can see, the needle's dropping more towards the positive range here. We're losing negative pressure, and the coolant level is going down in our jug. Okay, our gauge says that we're out of negative pressure here, so we're not creating any more vacuum. Let's go ahead and start getting this off of here. If you're planning on using the funnel system, you want to make sure you have the proper adapter. Just go ahead and press that onto the radiator as far as possible here. Turn that clockwise. Give it a little wiggle, make sure there's no gap. Continue on with your funnel. At this point, what you would want to do is continue adding coolant approximately halfway up the funnel here. You'll find that as air makes its way out, coolant will be making its way down, so you may have to continuously add coolant to the system. Now, no matter which way you decided to fill the cooling system, the next thing you need to do is go ahead and start up the vehicle and let it run for a short while. That's going to help remove any air from in the system, and you may find that you have to continuously add some. Aside from that, while the vehicle's running, make sure you have the heat in the hot position. We're going to confirm that the cooling fans run as they should. After those are running, you can go ahead and remove your apparatus from the top of the fill here. Get this off of here. Once you're sure the coolant system's full, go ahead and reinstall your cap. Once you've done that, go ahead and clean up your mess, double check for any leaks, close the hood, and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.